welcome to the Party Chat Peoples. I'm Xavi, and I have Stacy to my left, Mikey underneath me, and Lena in the corner there. But
Wait,
but
I
wait,
think we're missing somebody.
we're missing someone. Hack him in, jack him in.
I gotta work a little bit harder. There you go.
What?
What's up, guys?
Okay.
Whoa, oof.
Oh, no.
Oh,
There you go.
oof.
What
I
happened?
was just born. How are you?
Need more coffee for this.
He's 2 seconds old, and he's here to
There you
talk
go.
about video games and things.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah,
What
what are we
video
talking
games
about?
specifically?
I'm Matt.
So, we've got a pretty packed episode today, and I'm back from my
Yay!
Yeah, you're welcome back.
vacation of sorts away from the world and things. But I'm ready to talk about some games. So we're first going to start it off with EA acting shitty as usual, and the surprise ads that were put in the UFC game.
Surprise ads.
Surprise! We're gonna talk a little shit about
Surprise.
them first, and Matt has a nice group of roguelikes he'd like to discuss, starting with Enter the Gungeon,
Hell
Rogue Legacy, and Windbound. Lena's gonna fall all over with us with Fall Guys. Oh, Zabi
Yes.
smokes nostalgia. How does that work?
I load up an emulator, and
You
then
roll it up into a spliff.
I play games, and it just prints serotonin. It's great.
So, Zabi's gonna, we're gonna get contact high off of Winback and Hybrid Heaven, and my lost artifacts. I didn't even remember. Raji and Ancient Epic, A Short Hike, and the Control AWE DLC, which is their collaboration, or their what would you call it?
Crossover.
Alan Wake.
Crossover with
Yeah.
Alan Wake. And Stacy is going to talk about Frostpunk and some scenarios that she's been through.
Yeah, so there's the main game and then there's the scenarios. I'm specifically going to discuss those.
Cool. Well, we've got a pretty tight show, so let's just get into it. So
How is
Yeah.
EA being shitty this week?
So let me do a little screen sharing. I think that is informative in this case. So this is just a quick news article about it, but you can kind of see if I kind of make the video a bit longer. This is an example of an ad you might see. And what's happening is you're in the middle of the game, maybe there's a replay or you've got a second between bouts, and this giant thing flashes right in front of your face. And then later when it's showing you some statistics about the bout, it might also then show you a thumbnail of that same little ad, like they might do in a game. Yeah.
The appropriate face.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is something the fans did not much appreciate, and I'm super with them on this. If you're paying $60 for a game, it's bad enough you've got like little tiny versions, like little Reebok ad on the side of the ring. That's kind of at this point expected with sports games. If you have a driving car
Product
game,
placement.
you're going to see it on the side of the road. If you have a football game, you're going to see it on the side of the stadium.
If
like,
you have a
whatever.
Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah, that infuriates me.
But
honestly.
it's a logo on your screen that is not covering up the gameplay in any way, right? This actually covers up your gameplay, even though you're not mashing buttons trying to fight at that moment.
Yeah, just distracting.
And what I want to single out here that is especially egregious and gross, and if there was such a thing as the video game police, they should burst into whoever decided to do this and shoot them in the face, because the game released and then they patched in these ads a month later.
It's so disgusting. It's so disgusting.
It's to dodge the reviews. It's to dodge the critical reviews from outlets like IGN and so on, and so that those reviews are clean. This is the advertising version of what they do with Call of Duty, where there's no pay to win for like 2 or 3 months, and then they patch in loot boxes and so on and so forth, which they've been doing for years. It's the same tactic, except now for ads, which everyone loves.
Yeah. So
How will you know what you're gonna buy next, dude?
one thing you see in common with all media is if media is free, people are more tolerant of advertisements that are a significant portion of the media that you're consuming.
I'd rather
As
pay
soon as
$25 a month for MLB than watch it on network TV.
Right.
'Cause ads are the worst.
Yeah. So if you are paying for a thing, those advertisements, for the most part, need to be removed. Something that's a very small percentage of the game that doesn't disrupt your
Sometimes
ability
it
to consume
arguably
it
adds the immersion. Occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I think the point like Stacey's making is like, when did it's simulating the real world, like having it on the sidebars, whatever player is sponsored. Of course, if the player, the person that you're fighting against, not your character, wants to wear Papa John's boxers, go for it. Just like in the real world, but like having it flash across the screen like a subliminal message, like that's
video
exactly.
games are
That's what
supposed to be
like
better than
Orwellian.
real life.
I was like, what the fuck is going on
it's
here?
just like weird.
Video games are supposed to be better than real life. What is this
and
shit?
it's especially frustrating if it's like, all right, I finally made it through round 2, and then the ad pop, that's your reward.
The boys won. Amazon.
You made it to round 2 because of the boys.
I already get so angry at like games like UFC, like they're very difficult, and when I fail I just get very angry. It's just how I play video games. Like if ads started popping up and I like for one month of playing UFC, if there were no ads and then an ad popped up, I would drop my controller minimum.
Yeah, dropping it would be the nice
watching The Boys. I lost. Why do I care?
Right, exactly.
I feel like it will have a complete opposite effect on what's happening.
So I just want to say, what this has done for me is make sure I will not pre-order any EA games, or even for the first couple of weeks. I'm not going to buy it. Sorry.
This is why I haven't thrown down money for any Call of Duty for years. I know that in a few months they're going to fuck it up.
You have reduced your revenue stream, at least delayed it for a time, for probably at least a year for me, because I don't want to see you do that to some game that I buy.
The problem is it's probably not actually
Rick's face.
Hit the bottom line enough.
I honestly don't even remember the last time I bought an EA game for exactly that reason, because they started monetizing their game so heavily, and I was
the trick with EA, particularly like UFC and those other games, is that they're their big money makers are not like, their audience is not core gamers who are like paying attention to news stories and giving a shit about this stuff. Like people who buy Madden every year buy Madden every year. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And similarly for UFC, like if there's, especially the tricky thing with UFC is,
you say that, but they're already complaining that Madden is a reskin of the last one.
That's why this is actually like surprising to me, the the Madden 21 thing, because like, is it actually hitting the bottom line? I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, UFC, I actually think there's a good chance that someone can come in and fuck that market up, even if it's not a branded UFC game, by just going like, look, a fighter, and it's better than all of this shit. Madden, on the other hand, it's just no one's competing with that remotely.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't do it again, EA. And
yes, they're gonna listen.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see, but.
We've been complaining about this ever since Xbox 360.
And
like they still haven't learned.
Yeah.
They like money.
Alrighty. So, what's the rogue life looking like, Matt?
Oh man. So it started. I bought Enter the Gungeon on my friend from a very long time ago inceptioned it into my brain like a month ago, and then I just decided it was on sale, bought it. It's awesome. It's so good. So you just start right away, and immediately when you start playing Enter the Gungeon.
That's not Enter the Gungeon.
That's Rogue Legacy, which I also like. That's more of an honorable mention, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
You love Rogue Legacy as well.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Gungeon boys. Yeah, so it is pure. It's a pure roguelike. So you just jump in.
It's like The Binding of Isaac.
Yes, actually, that's the first thing he said when I
yeah.
played it. He said this is exactly like Binding of Isaac.
Except with a far bigger space to work with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And it's a lot more. It's a bullet hell. It combines elements of like Ikaruga, Binding of Isaac.
Awesome.
And it has the most ridiculous theming.
We're finding that there's a lot of also cool like hidden shit that if you like put out a certain fire here versus like you know, doing something else somewhere
yes,
else,
they put a lot of Easter eggs and secrets.
then yeah, you can find like hidden levels and stuff. So it's like
Oh,
worth
wow.
it to keep playing back over the first level instead
Nice.
of constantly moving upwards, which is fun too because you get like so many cool guns. The whole world is gun based, so there's like wizards that are just pistols, like if you take the and
they're like Cthulhu monsters that shoot you.
yeah,
So
like
this is officially
So
part of American
the
mythology.
plot of the plot of
exactly.
the plot of the game is somewhere in the galaxy. There is this planet where like this giant artifact bullet hits it and like creates this dungeon that like this mystical wizard dungeon where like all these like undead guns come to life and but it holds this artifact which is a gun that can kill the past. So people from all across the galaxy come to raid the dungeon.
The gungeon.
Is this the Devolver Digital game?
The dungeon
Yes,
full
it
of
is.
guns,
Okay,
the gungeon.
that makes sense.
Good call, Mikey. Good call.
Yes, we figured this out.
They aren't you know they haven't
just
cornered
happened?
they haven't cornered the market on irreverent
Like,
games at all. That's
you
not
like-
the
you like-
entire modus
You don't like
operandi.
little jumpy things? You don't like jumping puzzles? Here's a gun that gets rid of them for you.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many players is it?
You can play up to 2.
Okay, cool.
Too, and it's one of the few things I really miss local co-op. So playing Enter the Gungeon has really like revived that, especially in the both of us because we love playing this game together.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
But it's just you walk in a room and bang, 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 bang. It's so good. It's so good.
No, please God, stop doing that. You gotta be a little careful.
What did she do?
I have a friend I'm gonna recommend this to. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's really fun to play.
They actually do an interesting thing with the death mechanics as well, because when you're playing co-op, once one player dies, your spirit remains and can follow the other character, and you can use the fire button to use what's called a blank in the game, which gets rid of all projectiles which he just used on screen. You have a mini localized version as a spirit, so you can protect your friend while they take on the boss or an enemy.
Okay.
And then
So you basically
like,
become a useful Navi. Like
But then like you go to a room and there's a certain kind of chest. If you open the chest, then boom, you're alive again. So it's like it depends on how early you die, because like sometimes it's actually beneficial to just be like, all right, I'm gonna die, you're gonna revive me later, then we're gonna go get the boss.
I feel like I have this game. I think it was free on PS Plus at one point.
That may be that may be true.
Yeah, it might be, but I was just like, it doesn't look like my wow, that's a good gun.
That gun is like 3 times larger than the character.
The railgun.
The railgun is actually one of my favorite guns. It fires like this line, and they all come together and shoot.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, cool.
It does look
like
adorable. The way he's holding the railgun. It's like this is way too big for me, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm used to it.
There's like 5 different characters that you can choose from. So each individual character that you choose, which is only the protagonist, like player 1, has a different, skill set. And then if you play co-op, you're only allowed to be one specific character that they allow you to be for co-op. And if you, as the second player, try to talk to any NPCs, they'll just be like, I'm not talking to you. You're not player 1. Like, you're not the protagonist. And they make player 1 do things. Yeah. The only person who like talk to the second player is the guy in the shop when you buy an item, and that's it.
It's like they basically exported how.
Yeah, they're like, I don't want to fucking talk to you. No.
They exported how Nintendo treats Luigi.
Yeah, that's basically right.
Oh, the guy with the green hat. Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't talk to you. We don't talk to your kind around here. You're player 2.
What is this plot of which you speak? No one cares.
I don't know what you're talking about. This sounds like genuine American mythology to me. Like in 100 years when we're all gone, we're gonna find artifacts about this game, and they're just gonna be like, wow, they worshipped guns, like literally.
Yes, exactly that.
Awesome.
It reminds me of Doom in that way, like the original. There was no real attempt. It's like, I don't know, there's this stuff here. Go kill
all right, so it sounds like we understand what this is.
It's a cute game, quick. It really satisfies like the quick gaming itch. Packed full of secrets, and it has great local co-op. Like I can't recommend it enough, to be honest.
Nice.
Cool.
But yeah, that got me thinking about like Rogue Legacy, because that was one of the first like roguelikes that I played. Back when I used to play on PC.
Back when you had one.
But that's more of an honorable mention. It was one of those games that it first got me into like, okay, I can really scratch my gaming itch really quickly with something very simple and
that's what
like
people realized was valuable about this genre. You know what I thought was interesting about Rogue Legacy was that XCOM did a lot to revive the notion of a roguelike.
Yes, of a roguelike.
Where it's like death is important, that kind of thing, like being really crucial. And then like I feel like Rogue Legacy came along and was just like, hey guys, this used to actually be like its own thing. Let's do this again. And you know, and recreate it. So yeah, it was important in that sense.
And it also has a great little social message because like every one of your characters has like some form of disorder, right? If I remember correctly. Like everybody has like
not every character.
Not everyone.
Most
not every
character have some kind of weird defect of some kind.
But I don't think they depending on your play style, they would be negative or positive.
Or positive, yeah.
Sometimes they're actually good, like gigantism or some shit like that.
Yes, yes.
Or extra small, and then you can get into little spaces.
And you get into little spaces, and access places that other people couldn't, yes.
Yeah, and Rogue Legacy 2 is in early access, and even though I haven't heard great things about it right now, it continues that tradition because, Joe, I think, was the one who said that it's okay at the moment, it needs work. It's early access, but...
It'll literally say, boss goes here.
Right, exactly.
And there's no boss.
And so, but in Rogue Legacy 2, the trailer that's out, one of my favorite things is they have a visualization of synesthesia, where synesthesia people actually see the trails that projectiles like go in a way where I'm just like, that's fucking cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Speaking of synesthesia, just a small detour. That reminds me of, I don't know if you guys saw the Crash 4 trailer about how they have like these different modes, and they have this sort of synesthetic mode where when he jumps, like color splashes across the screen and they'll do things. It looks like a very, very interesting mode. Like definitely look up the trailer.
Crash Bandicoot?
One. Yeah, or one more done up.
Oh, yes.
It looks super, super cool. So I'm glad to see like maybe people, you know, maybe this is a new good trend. We might be starting with like, you know, synesthetic aesthetics that are put in game to like really, and like just thinking of like people who are maybe deaf, and then they have this also to sort of as a new way to convey some sort of meaning idea.
That's interesting.
That would be cool. I was actually playing a little bit of Punch Out, which I won't talk about, but fun news story that like the first time I ever heard of a disabled gamer was my mom telling me about a news story about a kid who would play Punch Out and he'd like beaten it. And I remember as a kid just being like, there's someone who cannot see who has beaten Mike Tyson and I haven't.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually.
All right. Well, I think you had one more.
Yeah. So from Rogue Legacy, I was clearly on a roguelike kick. So I decided to pick up Windbound because I heard that was coming out like about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I was like, wow, this kind of scratches it scratches my nostalgia itch for the GameCube era playing Wind Waker. It scratches my current itch for like a story-driven kind of progression. And it also is scratching the roguelike itch. Like I can jump in. Death is a very important mechanic in this game. It's also the most frustrating thing I've ever touched in my life.
Oh, wow.
All of those things I just said about it are true and are in the game. And they are demolished by the mechanical issues of the game. Like there are... The game crashed no less than I think 25 times the time during my time with it.
Before we jump too much further though, early access or full release?
No, this is a full release. This is a $40 game, yes.
On what console?
On the Nintendo Switch.
Wow. It's on PlayStation 4. I wonder how it runs.
I wonder how it runs on the
less. We'll see. I don't know.
Maybe it'll crash less.
It might get patched. We don't know.
At the time that I played it, they said that
nonetheless, you can't
release
a game in that. You can't release a game in that state.
Yeah, so whatever they did to patch it wasn't addressed in the Nintendo Switch version that I played at the time.
Sure.
Wow.
Even
but
just not showing the game crashing, it looks a little unpolished, you know?
It is.
The way she's moving and not quite coming in contact with the surfaces, or hands going underneath them.
Yep.
The way the animals just kind of run into stuff and then.
Well, I wouldn't actually. That isn't the problem for me. So there needs to be more transition animations. Actually, I think that the pace of the animations and whatnot is kind of intentional. It's actually very Zelda-ish. The way that the way that Link actually like climbs stuff in. Good call, Lita.
Sorry.
The way that like Link moves in Breath of the Wild is actually kind of similar to that. And it has this game has a certain bit more of like animation 1 and then animation 2 rather than like the blending between them. But I hear like things aren't lining up
Like he just
perfectly.
disappeared.
Yeah, that's fun.
New
Rough.
power.
Pardon me, I'm just teleporting through this rock.
Just like my experience.
So aside from the technical issues, what about the design did not resonate?
So it was a little simplistic. Parts of the design are increasingly frustrating even without crashing, like dying and starting over from the beginning, and then your progress is wiped. So yeah,
isn't that what it is?
Yeah,
if you're gonna have a buggy game, you can't have it be unforgiving.
Yeah.
One or the other can work, but not both.
Does anything transfer over between playthroughs?
So what's supposed to transfer is recipes. However, during my time with the game, I died once and spawned with no recipes and had to literally start the game over again.
You did say you enjoyed the boating mechanic.
Yes, and so what I did love about it is like, yeah, everything I said about it is true. I love the sailing as well because it did scratch that like Wind Waker itch for me. And I really wanted it to pay off.
I want to see how this works.
The water mechanics are very interesting. However, it doesn't flow very well with the kinds of boats that you make. So like oftentimes I'll find my ship diving headfirst into the water after I rode a wave. You know, I'll catch a wave and start riding it. And there are sections of the game where you actually have to sail at very high speeds because a wave is pushing you and you're surfing it.
Right. It's part of how they get you to certain places.
And then halfway through, my ship goes, and I'm sinking into the waves. I bob up, and then all of a sudden I'm on top of a reef, and my ship blows up.
Okay. That's so, and that feels less like a challenge that you need to get better at and more like janky
and more like
game.
A failure of the mechanics to synergize in a way that's good.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I can see how losing your recipes would just be incredibly painful because you learn how to make this cool boat and now you're back to a canoe or something.
Oh, he was an angry boy. Yeah.
I was quite the angry boy, BOI.
And recipes, they are responsible for food, actual items, objects.
Yeah, because this looks like it actually has the aesthetics, at the very least, of a full-blown builder survival type of game.
Yes, it's a survival mechanic game.
So actually, like, just the fact that you're combining, just the fact that you're combining those genres, so to speak, basically has me on board. Is combat interesting at all?
No.
Air combat?
Oh.
It's very simple. There's no.
I'm mostly okay with that.
Yeah, it's not terrible, to be honest. You get some interesting weapons. You get basic stuff like a spear and a bow. You have a sling that you can use and break up rocks. But
I mean, I actually think Breath of the Wild's combat is simple.
Yes, but this is like even more simple than that.
Oh dang.
Yeah, it's not. That's not the focus of the game. It's really just to get the survival items.
It feels like an unpolished thing again to me because
I will say though, like it is
start making that complicated, you have to troubleshoot the issues that arise, and
that's never fun.
Do that.
And it's a shame because honestly, the theming of the game is beautiful. You know,
I like this whole video. It's so beautiful. Like I really.
Well, I'm curious how it'll work on PS4.
Thing in their mind, and if you could just ignore all the actual game mechanics and just walking simulator through the plot, it would probably be very nice.
Yeah, or at least pleasant.
I don't think that's what they're going for. Like
definitely not.
Here's a different question, and I know we should move on, but maybe last one. I don't know. Is the economy of the building materials and stuff actually good and satisfying?
I would say yes, but I think you and I have different opinions on that.
Okay.
I was satisfied. It has a very simple economy. It's not anything intense. And it's going for that mid-sized game feel. You know what I mean?
Double A.
But and what actually disappointed me almost the most was there's no New Game Plus. So yeah, why would you create a $40 mid-sized game that really should have taken me like 12 hours to beat, but took me 24 because I had to start over, and not include a New Game Plus?
Right.
That does sound like it's missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Feels like
I don't think
not
that
worth
that's
the money.
always the right call. Exactly. I was gonna say
No, but
from a
definitely
design
for the
perspective,
kind of survival mechanic game this would have
Yeah.
been absolutely a New Game Plus thing, especially with the way that you create like very powerful weapons and stuff. I could have
get that.
imagined 100%.
I get that. I think that's a dev's call. Sometimes you have to push something out and it's not ready for such a thing. Like you can't just snap your fingers and put in endless mode or New Game Plus mode.
Yeah.
So maybe DLC, maybe patches if it does well.
Maybe.
Sometimes you just need to push something out and start
I
recouping.
would be interested to come back to this game in like 3 or 4 months and see how like the game's been patched up. Maybe it's included in this new stuff, but honestly, I can't recommend this one.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, published by Deep Silver. That's they're hit and miss. I haven't heard of the devs at all. 5 Live Studios, but yeah. Okay.
a heads up. That looks like the sort of game that I might pick up and try to play. And
Pick it up on PS4 so we can compare and contrast.
Well, in the meantime, while Matt's been playing all that, I've been playing Fall Guys,
Just Fall Guys.
which is it's the new fad. So basically, if you want anxiety, competition, cathartic screaming, this game's got it all. I promise you.
I can injure my hand again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally every time we have played this game in my house, there is constant screaming. It's so fun though, but it's so frustrating.
Fall Guys. Stays
yeah.
Fall Guys.
Think Japanese game show with a cute aesthetic.
Yeah, so they look like
Oh my
little
god,
thumbs.
it's Attack on a Show.
Yes.
They look like little thumbs with faces, and
oh my god.
like you see all these wolves. Right off the bat, you get with like a wolf mask, and like you get different as you go through the game. Even if you fail the first level.
Oh, yeah.
This is a battle royale game show.
Yes.
Yeah, so even if you fail the first round, like you still get points and stuff, and you can upgrade like your character's like clothing, but it really doesn't do anything for you. You just got to learn how to do it. And so there's a lot of just getting pushed
I'm so
around
happy
with
that I have
objects.
never watched gameplay footage of this game.
Too bad the sound isn't on because they
I
sound
can't say I've seen
simple.
anything quite
They
like
do.
this before.
They do have cute music. Yeah, it's cute music. But I've learned that like some players are also like one of the worst parts to get over with the game, because I found that there's certain points where people will stop, and then instead of going over the finish line and qualifying, because you can only be like only certain people qualify each level, they'll grab you and push you and grab you, and then they'll go in.
Yep. There's a grab.
Oh, that's mean.
Yes.
It's so mean. It's the worst thing ever. It makes me feel so bad.
Yeah.
So
You gotta learn how to
I've talked
deal
a
with
lot
them.
about competitive games and the ability to troll other people.
Yeah.
And how if you make it possible, people will troll each other, even if
yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
unintentional
So
mechanic.
bad.
100%.
They already knew. Yeah, come on.
No, yeah, this one I think it's intentional.
But I
Clearly.
mean,
Look
But
at this. Look at it. Look.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
no,
exactly.
not
Fuck
getting
them.
grabbed by the wolf.
So
Oh,
far,
man.
I can only get up to like the third round. I think there's 5 or 6.
There are
sometimes.
usually 5 or 6 rounds. Yeah.
I've won maybe a handful of
I have
So
gotten
each
so
round,
close.
only a
So
certain number of
close.
people go to the next round. That's how it
Yeah,
happens. So each
basically.
round has
It's
fewer.
Ninja Warrior
people in it.
rules.
Yep.
Yeah, and then once
Oh,
you get
boy.
towards like the last round, there's like 1 or 2 options where either everybody gets disqualified and you're the last one standing, or it's like first to grab the crown. And then you get like you get a lot of cool shit if you can like sell the crowns that you've won and get other items.
it's
Yeah,
not
we are
even-
not sure
Yeah.
where you go. That is the abyss. They just
Oh,
drop
yeah.
you into it when
You die. It's
Literally,
definitely
look,
purgatory.
It
It's
has the
100%
it has the 2 rows of pins. It's the little slot machine thing. They're gonna sort you.
Plinko?
Yeah, it's
gonna sort you,
pachinko
yeah.
purgatory.
They're gonna sort you
What the
into
fuck do you
different.
think purgatory looked like?
They're gonna sort you
It's
into
just
random
a big ass pachinko machine.
They're gonna sort you into random buckets, and then you commit seppuku.
There you go.
So yeah, it's good for like a
And
good
it's almost
Friday night.
like they hide how awful it is by how cute it is.
Yes.
In some ways,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome
The
to-
only
No, this is
Yeah.
this game is like the aggregate of like human awfulness, right? But they cover it up with all this cute colors and shit. This is like this game is hell. This is where you come when you fall out of the pachinko machine.
I will say the best time to play this game is like when you're
Oh,
kicking
no.
back and you've got a couple
Oh, this
beers
is
or whatever it
brilliant.
is
This
that
is
your vice
brilliant.
is. Yes.
This
A couple friends, yeah.
And
yeah,
a couple
yeah.
friends, and you guys can all talk about it and scream together and then like trade
Yeah.
the controller and move on. Because
Yeah.
there's like some where
It's a
like there's
party
like
game.
you have to remember stuff
Yes.
and I like help Matt play. It's so good. It's so fun. It's so cute. It's the worst.
Which
I
mini
love
game
it.
is your favorite?
Huh?
Which
Ooh,
mini
that's a good
game was your
question.
Oh,
favorite?
no.
Actually, I'm really good at the seesaws. I've learned that this
Uh,
level right here, the seesaw level, like
Oh.
at one point I was just fucking zen with it and I got so in the zone and like every time I played the seesaws I've been good. The one before with the circles that you have to jump,
Yeah.
that is my worst nightmare. I can't do it. I fall every time. I end up just sitting there and just dying because I'm like I give up halfway through. I just start over.
I really like all the obstacle ones.
Yeah, with like the doors that go
Yeah.
up.
Nope. DoorDash. Nope.
Oh.
Nope.
I really like the cylinder.
Is this game free to play?
And
It was free to play. I got it on PS Plus.
it
Okay.
should be. Oh, it went up on price. I didn't realize it was PS Plus. Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
Yeah, that's
Listen,
right.
I
I
didn't
remember
buy
hearing
it. It was
went-
just
they went the
there when
Rocket
I
League
came
It was
home.
just there when you turned on.
Yeah, I came home
This
one
is
day and
funny,
he's like, I got this
'cause-
game for you.
This is funny because this is basically a prisoner's dilemma right now. Like someone needs to hold that side of the seesaw in order for anyone to
Yeah,
progress,
it's
and
awful.
other
It's so
other people are just running forward and just
It's
being
so
like
Like I said,
let's all take
I
advantage.
go first.
This
and
is
then
literally prisoner's
someone gets
dilemma,
left
the
behind
game.
every
This
time.
is fucking
Oh.
hilarious.
this is anxiety and cathartic screaming. That's
Yeah.
all
I'm
this
surprised
is.
you haven't played it, Xavi. This is.
I knew it was like the big fad.
We should play it together if you do get it.
Yeah. It sounds. I think
The
I
only
might
thing
pick
is
it up.
that you can only group up four.
Yeah, I think having more people with you helps you strategize.
Yeah, you can only group up as four. I think that's the only. They need to make it at like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I
and
think
unfortunately,
Groups would be overpowered if they were allowed to like be some significant majority of the actual players in the map.
Sure.
I don't think 8 is a stretch
Okay.
at all. This isn't like a. I mean, you start off with about 60-something players.
yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, I do think it's cute that like when you die, you have the option of continuing to watch what it's called
Yeah.
a show. So like if you're playing with other people online, if you die and you're disqualified, you can,
you're
or you
just watching
qualify
it.
and it's the round's still going, you can watch your friend.
That guy
until
with the
they
giant pink
That's
beard, I
important.
hate him. I hope he doesn't win.
Oh my god, Stacey's picking.
Yeah, you can hate watch
Stacey's
too,
picking
yeah.
favorites.
I
Oh,
do
yeah.
wish.
How much have you watched Ninja Warrior?
This is my
Fucking hate that hot dog, fucking hot dog.
I will say I do wish it had a mechanic where you could just watch random shows. Like you know how on Smash you can just watch people fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes I
actually,
just want to yell
That's
at people.
the thing. Yeah.
Actually,
that's the thing.
yeah, that's also something that Fantasy Strike put in. Actually, as part of the subscription plan because they just went free to play, and I actually think this is brilliant because I like keeping it on while I work, so I could see Fall Guys having a similar thing,
Yeah.
whether it's tied to in-app purchases or not, some kind of thing where it's just like just watch people play as entertainment while you work, and then maybe you take your 5-minute break from work and you just go, all right, let me hop into a match.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd put it on while I'm cleaning. I would love it.
Yeah,
Fall
I feel you.
Guys.
I feel you.
Cool. Well, you guys are done, and it's time to jump into some nostalgia.
All right. These two games in the N64 era were some serious good memories for me. Let's start off with Winback. I recently went back to both of them yesterday, but I played them for a few hours each, and I have some interesting shit to report. Like I thought I was going to talk about something more modern, like I went back to Spider-Man this week or whatever, but then I played this and I was just like, this is really fucking fascinating. Winback was advertised as the Nintendo 64 answer to Metal Gear Solid, and in some ways that's true. This is a cruddy resolution video, but that's fine. The way that this game works, because you had one analog stick on a Nintendo 64, is actually kind of fascinating. In some ways, it holds up better than Metal Gear Solid's gameplay, because Metal Gear Solid 1 is essentially a remake of Metal Gear 2 from the MSX with 3D graphics and a few things that are gimmicky that actually take advantage of the fact that we're in 3D now, like having a first-person perspective and using a sniper rifle and that kind of stuff, right? This game is full 3D. It's actually doing some interesting shit in terms of like trying to think through what that means and how to do gunfights and all this kind of stuff. And the level design is solid. It's all like cohesively worked around like the notion of what can you do with this one analog stick, right? So you use the analog stick to move. You hold the button to raise your gun, and when you raise your gun, you can't really move that much except for that dodge maneuver you saw a few seconds ago.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember how to do that. But I'll figure it out now that I saw that it's possible. But
I just want to point out too that the cutscenes have this nice cinematic quality to them.
Right.
They've paid attention to camera angles, which was really unusual for games that
yes,
era.
and both of the games I'm going to talk about kind of share that. But this one is basically styled after like an 80s action movie with this kind of setup of like the bad terrorist people have taken over a satellite and we need to go like in there and make them less bad by murdering all of them. And so it gets off to like a classic terrible start with the helicopter blowing up, and then here you land in and like here I go, and then here you see all your team members that are there. Like in the menu you can see all of them, and throughout the story you're going to run into them, and then some of them are going to die immediately, insta die, and then some of them are gonna like last a while, but like over the course of this story, like you're gonna have these moments where like you've been with someone for like a little while now, and then they finally have their heroic death, and it's just like and like this is all deep memories from my childhood. It's so good.
This feels like a game that would be great for a remake, but because nobody remembers it in the first place.
Right. And what you really want is a spiritual successor.
training.
Yeah, exactly. What you really want is a spiritual successor. So much of the gameplay basically revolves around like these sorts of very methodical, very like calculated maneuvers. Like you're in cover, and then you have like popping out of cover, doing like that 90-degree like pop out turn, which just feels great every fucking time pretty much. But then as you get a little bit better at the game, you start to realize like you don't need to use the actual shotgun people will murder you. You don't need to use actual like pop out thing. Sometimes if you're at like a chest high crate, which by the way, fuck you Gears of War, this game did it first. You basically want to like be crouched, aim at someone, and then pop up, bang bang bang, get back down. So like there's this way that the movement is so intentional in this game. It's all about cover, the way you use cover, manipulate cover, and you're actually decently fragile. Even though after you get shot, you have a few like second and a half or something of invulnerability. If it's like a shotgun or a machine gun, like they'll get multiple shots on you, and like it can be a quarter to a third of your health. And then you have knife guys that will rush you, and like one stab is like half your health. Like you need to think about the space very clearly. You need to see the enemy types. You need to like think through this shit. So I replayed the first 6 missions or so, and it is some good stuff. I'm very impressed at how it holds up. There are some things that are antiquated. Do not get me wrong. I was high on nostalgia. This is not a modern critique of this game. Oh, and that's something to mention. This has multiplayer, local multiplayer, and these mechanics translate to a multiplayer game pretty well, actually, because the simple weapon types that you have, pistol, machine gun, shotgun, and then of course rocket launcher, is
with a total of 4 rockets available.
They're very simple, but they're all about playing with the distance, right? If you get up on someone with a shotgun, like all the classic shit that we're used to at this point, but it feels very, very distinct in this game because it really matters. So a pistol or a machine gun from a certain distance, the lock-on is not going to be accurate. You're not gonna hit them unless you do pinpoint. So like when you hold down the shoot button, it's gonna point right at them. But then if you use a stick from there, the analog stick, then you're not auto locked on anymore, but you can go for headshots, for example. So like it's a good multiplayer experience. I remember taking on my cousin and my brother at the same time, and they hated me because I could actually take them both on. And like it's really like it just has me thinking so deeply about like what is it about this that has disappeared from shooters, because now it's all twin stick. The right stick allows for a precision that's just unheard of. You don't have like this notion of like making these little tactical moves. The closest thing is probably like Rainbow Six, but the skill ceiling on that shit is so high. Like the actual like jankiness, if you want to call it that, feels so novel that it actually just feels like a different game, not an inferior game. I really am enjoying going back to this one.
The dodging mechanic actually reminds me a little bit of like the RE3 dodge mechanic, at least the animation, you know, in function, it's very different, but I imagine if they did do something like a spiritual sequel, that something like that would be interesting, like a slowdown or something like that. And it would allow you to plot out your shots, be more methodical about your tactics, right? I would really like to see something like this. This is actually scratching my nostalgia thing, just you talking about it. Like, come on.
Yeah, I would say that the quick things to point out that are like have not aged well is like the AI is dirt simple. It doesn't mean that the game is any less challenging because they're constantly like surprising you by going like, aha, I'm behind you, motherfucker. And like that's actually still interesting to play through. It actually has a pretty good checkpoint system. Like you'll die here and there, but it's not like I lost 20 minutes of gameplay or whatever. Like the levels are pretty short and snappy. The cutscenes are good, but AI is not so good. The controls still have jank to them that like, regardless of what I'm talking about in terms of like how it feels good, that it moves at a slower pace and that you don't have like twitchy aiming. Like you have to actually like put up the gun and then like do the adjustments and all that stuff. It still doesn't control as good as it would if you made this game today, for sure. But yeah, it's a solid one. I was like, I went back to it, and in some corner of my mind there was horror because it was like I'm revisiting something that is precious to me. Is it trash?
Yeah.
And then I'm playing it and I'm just like, no, this is actually kind of good. And then similarly, Mikey, I don't know if you remember, you were talking about Valkyria some other game. It's like some time ago. You were talking about a game that had like Valkyrie in the name or some shit. And I was like, oh, is that game where it was like an RPG, but like you choose, what was that? Profile. And I was like, is that game where like you do like punches that are like very like methodical and it's turn-based combat, but it's kind of different? Actually, I was thinking of Hybrid Heaven. This game is really good from the little bit that I started replaying. It has jank. A lot of what I said about Winback is true of this game as well, in terms of like the controls and the camera for sure would feel more fluid if it was redone today. But this game starts off with like a presentation. That's a bug. Wow. That's really funny. That's a bug. That's a bug. That's a bug.
Hold on, anyway. Do I have heart disease yet? Let me check real quick.
Skip past the bug. That's hilarious. Oh my god. Okay. It has not been this buggy for me, but in any case, the funny thing about this game is I don't know, but it is actually a game that's supposed to be expansion pack enabled. It is actually a game that's supposed to be expansion pack enabled, so it's entirely possible that without an expansion pack, it's this buggy. In any case,
I see.
In any case,
I love his arm.
It actually, I clearly didn't watch this video before I. The actual intended cutscene is actually quite good, especially for its era. It feels like the intro to the Matrix, actually, in terms of like you have all these characters. They're immediately talking about like, that's very funny. They're immediately talking about like very scary stuff about how they're gonna like kidnap the president and shit, right? And basically, like you reach a point where by the time you're playing the game, you're literally like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know if I'm a good guy or a bad guy, which is kind of cool. And then in short order, you're in this research facility, and basically like these monsters start breaking out, and then we get to the actual like fighting gameplay, that's very funny. Which is this is a hack. I'm pretty sure this is a hack, you guys. Like,
what is going on?
No game is actually this buggy. But anyway.
All right. I'm just gonna stop.
Find another video.
Find another one. This is just.
So
I mean, it's so fantastic.
Let's find some actual gameplay.
It's actually a good. It's actually a good surprise.
But I do need you to DM me that video.
Yes, please.
It's in the show notes
Immediately.
This is the birth of a new series.
Yeah. So if you play the game on a proper emulated device, like it actually looks very serious, and it's actually like good. It's actually decently voice acted. That was one of the surprises for me. Was I started playing it and I was just like, There was good voice acting that wasn't Metal Gear Solid back in
I would hope that
day.
a game that cinematic has some decent
yes,
voice
it
acting,
does.
right?
And so maybe we'll get a chance to get a video of it. But this is also a game that like has good cinematography. The first moment that you fight an actual monster, we're seeing some fighting combat now. I haven't gotten this far, but so you'll see here that the way this game works is it is a combination of a turn-based RPG and a real-time space-based fighter. So this guy is just cheesing the backbreaker move right here over and over. But if you look at the power meter, when that hits the tick, you can actually do a move. And he is just cheesing the shit out of this. And that's fine. You can.
That's okay.
Because he's actually stunning this guy enough because of his stats on an RPG level that he can keep doing this, but it's costing him stamina if you look carefully. So at some point, this is not going to work. Now, while this doesn't look particularly exciting for gameplay, okay, you found it out, overpowered technique. What is really cool is if you do get to fight someone that you actually want to like be basically like trading space. That's when the game gets interesting because it uses the analog stick in order to have this distinction between steps, strides, and dodges in terms of pressing slightly, pressing all the way, and double like pointing, right? In order to do those sorts of maneuvers. And here's a good example. This guy that he fights, unless he cheeses the shit out of him, you'll see that like you can basically trade space very like slightly. You're doing these little dodges and you choose when to press a button. So this is the enemy choosing to do an attack here, and you choose whether to guard, step, or counter, but it's a turn-based in that motion. You have all the time in the world to decide what to do, but you do this in real time, this jockeying for position, and you gotta find that opening to get in there. And then finally he might step forward. Okay, the enemy's gonna do something. Guard, he failed on the guard, so he got knocked down. He tries to get back in again. Now he's gonna press a button to enable the attack.
You're telling me that when you fail, it actually can increase the defense of whatever.
Yes, so if you get hit in the arm over and over again, it's going to increase the defense for your arm, which over time might mean that because if you're always stepping to the left, always, then this defense is going to be better than this defense, right? So one side versus the other, and that's like fucking fascinating.
That's
really cool.
It's
that
really
reminds
good.
me. I'm
angry. I'm angry that this style of gameplay like does not exist in the modern era. You see right there, there's left arm leveled up on defense, and the story is good. Like, or at least I remember
whatever
it being
you
good.
do, you keep getting better at. Just that.
Well,
it's a Final Fantasy thing too.
Not
it is a very Final Fantasy thing.
You put points in a tree.
Right. It's literally you keep throwing those left hooks. Now that's your bread and butter. And then if you actually go into the menu, you can switch between southpaw and normal stance.
That's
you're going around in the environment and doing slight puzzles, kind of like searching for items and all that. You're in this underground facility is where the game takes place, and there's this whole like setup in the story where it's like you don't really know if you're a human and what's going on, but like there's a plot to like replace the president with a clone, maybe. Like that's the rough hook of the game, but that's really after a few hours. Like you start this game and you're genuinely for those first few hours you're like, who am I, what is happening? Like
hair, man.
it's that hair, it's kind of crazy. And the fighting gameplay is specifically what's stuck in my head so hardcore all these years. It is very unique. I'm enjoying going back to it. I'm still very early. I don't know if like it's gonna pan out over the course of the whole game or if it's gonna get stale or what. We'll see maybe. But it's like immediately when I'm playing it, I'm just like, yes, why hasn't anyone done this?
I'd say, Xavi, that the closest thing is actually has not even come out yet, but we talked about it, which is fights in tight spaces. That's probably the closest thing to whatever this is right now, because I can't think of anything that even resembles sort of like, spacing, punching, having sort of combos, or the way that you deal with people, like basically on a melee, like focused melee sort of turn.
Fights in tight spaces strikes me more as a puzzle game that's using the aesthetics of like action movies. This game, honestly, like the good fights flow more like the UFC game. No bullshit. Except it also has like this kind of, it's almost like what for UFC this game does what what Blitzball did for soccer, except Blitzball was a minigame. Like this notion of like taking these small little steps and then pausing time when you take your motion, right? It's literally the same logic as when you're playing UFC and you step in deep because you're about to throw that right hook, except you do it with menus.
I will say I'm not super about the aesthetic though. It's very like brown and like.
It is brown, but that's sort of intentional. The game, the probably like visually, the game is trying to go for like Blade Runner-ish, except it's the Nintendo 64. So what am I gonna do? Make these creepy underground, like, yeah, you see it.
Yeah, it's not really possible to do gritty with so few pixels. That's the problem you have.
Kind of.
Oh, hello, strong.
But like cinematography in games, it's here.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, those are
for sure.
That's my nostalgia trip.
Cool. Well, I just like to say for both of those things that you presented, they're due for some sort of like remake, because I can definitely see went back and like, you know, the cover and the dodge system just being like, you know, cover dodge, small short missions.
Win Back, published by Koei.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Hybrid Heaven, published by Konami.
Oh no!
That's not coming anywhere. Then.
We'll never see it. We'll never see it ever again.
Did they make it as well, or it's just published?
Do not know offhand.
Gotcha. All right. Well then.
That's it for me.
Okay. No. Well, I guess I meant Lost Artifacts.
It was developed by Konami. I looked it up real quick.
Sorry, Hybrid Heaven. But I have been playing on my time off Raji, an Epic Tale, and it is a very charming game. At first glance, you could probably looks like a Prince of Persia-esque style game. People have been calling it Princess of Persia. It's developed by an Indian developer, and the game basically centers around like lots of Indian mythology. Cool. You take the role of Raji, and she is a young girl, and she's sort of demi-goddess. She's chosen by the gods, and she has to save her younger brother from the demon lord, Mahabalarasura.
Get it in there.
I butchered that name.
You
go through the game, and you basically sort of throughout the game you converse with Durga and Brahma, and they bless you with different weapons. So you start off with a spear, and the combat feels fantastic. It has a really nice feel to it. So you start off with a spear, you ended up getting a bow and arrow, and then you also get a sword and shield. And each of the weapons are sort of tied to a god. There is a level up system, like these little orbs, but I'm not necessarily sure how it works. Like the game is pretty polished, but there's definitely some things about it that I'm just like, So like the sound mixing is kind of off. So like when there's special animations to finish off an enemy, but everything seems a little bit out of sync. And also voice acting. I don't know if it's just the Indian accent and the way that it translates, through screen, but it does sound a little bit off sometimes. And those are really the only negatives about the game. But I do really love the presentation of it. Throughout the game, there'll be voiceovers of Raji, talk, either having a monologue or the gods, Brahma and Durga, are talking to her. In the game, there are a couple of mechanics where you have to fix destroyed artifacts, and you'll have to turn. Well, there's mandalas where you have to fix mandalas and sort of fix the puzzle, and then a story comes out of it. And there's also areas where like there's a broken down area, and as you rotate this cylindrical sort of artifact, the area you're trying to fix comes back into back from ruin. And then lastly, this is not a mechanic, but it's a way to sort of build. You'll find tapestries, and then you can go to it and press Y or whatever the interact button is, and it'll tell a story. And as the tapestry is filling in, it'll just like highlight certain, if you can kind of imagine, I'm actually not even looking with Stacy's
Kind of like Journey.
Yeah.
yes,
Journey, yes.
exactly. And
Windbound has a similar element too.
Yeah, and it'll light up specific parts of the tapestry, and then as the story moves, it'll light up a different part. And then it even expands to like as you walk through, there was like a specific section I was at where I activated one, and then as I was walking, you just stop at the next tapestry, and then you can just go, and it's just story. There's no enemies.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, it is good. You know, if you remove like 3 metric fuck tons of testosterone, this is actually kind of God of War.
Yes, I was about to say
I was
that.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And this game does sound like my jam. Like it looks really cute, very
actually
interesting.
that's a really good comparison. It kind of is. I'm thinking of like the camera just pulled back even further, like a God of War 1 or 2.
Yep, exactly. Classic God of War.
Elements, weapons that are related to separate gods and stuff. Yeah.
So Princess of War. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Princess of
Princess
War.
Of War. dope.
But it's really good. I haven't finished it yet. I'm up to the first environment is pretty long and it's pretty big. I don't know how many environments there are, but it was sort of like, it was sort of like a temple, like an Indian temple, sort of resembling like Taj Mahal. And now I'm in like this jungle-ish area. So it's been interesting. It's been really good, and I'm liking the mechanics of the game, and I really am liking like the combat system. So that was that. And
available on the Switch.
Available on Switch. Yes, I think that is a Switch exclusive. That along with this, the next one we're going to be talking about. That was sort of
actually it says PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows.
Okay, it might have like a timed
window. Yeah.
So along with that, I think the next game I also played was that Nintendo Direct that Indie Direct that played in August sometime, where maybe like every single game they were showcasing, they were like available later today.
Oh boy,
so the second game that I played is A Short Hike, which is a really short, cute game where you take the role of Claire, and she's a bird. She goes to her aunt's a camping trip with her Aunt May. Sorry, I thought it was like her aunt's island, but I was wrong. And you basically have to trek up a mountain. That's it. Claire can fly and climb, and that is tied to golden feathers. So basically, you walk around this island. The art style is fantastic.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
You can immediately see with the shader work is pretty good, because that pixelation is 100% on purpose.
Actually, here's another deal that it doesn't show you. You can change that. You can go from low res to high res.
Oh,
really? Wow.
Yeah.
Hell
you can make
yeah.
it more pixelated or less pixelated. I think I picked about the 4th option, so it's like sharp. It's like still pixely, but a little bit sharper.
Parameterized shaders.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
I can't remember the options. Like maybe when we're done, I'll turn on my Switch really quick and look what they are. But it's super, super cool. But it kind of reminds me of like Animal Crossing X, where you basically have to talk to people and they'll ask you questions. They'll maybe request something of the world. So for example, I think one of the first things, animals you talk to, they're like, oh, I left like my boots in the forest or something. And then you go and you pick up the boots and then you go back and it's like, oh, thank you. We'll give you a golden feather. And as you get more golden feathers, the aim of the game is to reach the top of the peak. But of course, reaching the top of the peak, you probably need like 20 feathers. I forgot how much I have, but you start with that and then you just start doing tasks around.
It's a new secret seashell. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, but there's races, you talk to people, there's little mysteries, and you get a little boat and you can boat around the island, and it's just kind of cool. You just kind of walk around. The game is 2 hours, and you just it's just a very chill game. Like I said, the art style is cool.
Is there a wind mechanic, or is that just an aesthetic?
Wind?
Yeah, like do you fly on wind, or do you have to follow wind or path or anything?
It's just aesthetic. I can't remember there being like really pushed by the wind. There is a dive mechanic, and so when you go in the air and you fly, as long as you're pressing a direction, Claire will glide slowly. If you let go of the analog, she'll start to dive. So it took me a little bit to get used to, but I didn't have that many feathers anyway, so me diving was just like, whatever. But
it sounds like the flying is not a huge part of the game though. No. Just from the video. Is that fair?
Say that one more time. I missed it.
It sounds like the flying is not a huge part of the gameplay.
No, it is, because you're trying to reach different parts of the island. So flying and climbing.
So maybe this is like the Spider-Man itch in some ways.
A little bit. You use the golden feathers is the same inventory for it's the same thing that powers your flight and your climbing. So say like if there was a rock here and then there was another rock here with a wall, you jump over to the rock, use a feather, and then you climb on the wall. You can jump off and fly back. But feathers are always being consumed between flying and climbing. So
I see.
It's super, super cool, and I've definitely been enjoying it. I haven't been like I said, it's a chill game. I looked at the sort of playtime, and I know it's about 2 hours or so, but I've just kind of been running around, talking to people, getting flowers. And then lastly, unfortunately, I have been not enjoying the final Control DLC, coming off a pretty enjoyable one with the Foundation, where new gameplay mechanics were presented. You dug deep into more of the story via the what was the thing called? The big the 4. Oh my gosh, the black thing with the eye.
I don't remember. That game had just a lot of scary shit.
Yeah.
No, I don't think the refrigerator. That was one of the power items, right?
Yeah. But it was the refrigerator guy. What did we call? What was the name of that enemy?
Oh, you're right. The enemy that you fight when you go into. Yeah. Oh, I don't remember.
He becomes an ally, and then you realize he was a part of the monolith group.
Okay.
And then they kicked him out because of something. But all to say that was a lot more meatier than this DLC.
Story-wise.
So this was their attempt to cross over to Alan Wake. And unfortunately, they're just kind of a bunch of loosely tied cutscenes. An addition of enemies that just have flight now. So there's new enemies of armored soldiers in flight. So they shoot and fly.
Do they feel fun to fight?
There's no difference. It's just imagine the armored enemies with guns out there. They can fly.
That's a missed opportunity. I feel like basically having 2 Iron Man type characters fighting each other is not something that we've cracked in games.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, Alan Wake is in there. They kind of put him in the story as he's writing what's happening with Jesse as it put in the game. And your main antagonist is Dr. Hartman. If you played Alan Wake, he kind of set off Alan Wake, where he invited Alice Wake, Alan's wife, to Lake Cauldron and kind of started everything off. He wanted to use Alan Wake to sort of control the dark presence, but unfortunately that wasn't it. Control picks off of where they realized that there was an AWE going on, and they captured Hartman. While he was there, the hiss mixed with whatever the darkness was and made him this creature. So in this DLC, you basically find another bureau of the oldest house that you didn't figure out till now, and you are basically chasing Hartman from area to area. It looks like a cross. So each cross is basically an arena. I mean, there's corridors and geometry between that, but I want to say all of their arenas are basically at the end of each cross, and then the final encounter is sort of the middle. But I didn't find the mechanics that interesting. He's allergic to light, so each of the encounters are basically going around and using the power boxes to turn on lights. You can't damage him.
Kind of contrived.
Yeah, you can't damage him.
Using the environment to kill
him. Yeah, each encounter, they'll add in a little something else of oh, now there's enemies. Oh, now there's floating enemies.
It sounds like it feels a little scripted, almost.
Yeah, but I think my disappointment with it is that it seems like such a missed opportunity. And I think I told you earlier, I was looking at reviews and it was like, oh, I just want more control. This is great. And I'm just like, I didn't really learn anything. I haven't beaten it because I'm stuck at the last boss. But
what it feels to me is that they're using this as a way to test out their ability to make an Alan Wake game next.
I don't know about that.
How well does this engine work with a potential Alan Wake game?
I would say more like a full-on sequel. Control was too important to Remedy to not do a direct sequel. I know that there's a lot of Alan Wake love, but like Remedy's not, made of money.
A lot of people have now never heard of Alan Wake.
Exactly.
So it's going to be brand new to a whole generation of people.
Yeah.
And I can see why they would want to do a game based on that. But I kind of feel like this is just a waste of a Control expansion.
Yeah,
it was for the diehard Remedy fans. Like, look, Alan Wake, isn't that cool?
Yeah, and I'm kind of a diehard Remedy fan, and I don't think that this, that's basically
not quite done right.
Yeah.
The part of this that most interests me is actually the old gameplay.
Oh well, you do.
Goes
So
to show you.
Speaking of gameplay, there are 2 new things.
Yeah, I want it.
Because the darkness is a part of the game now. There's like sort of spotlights that are a little bit more identified in the world, and you use them to sort of burn darkness up. And you also have a new gun called the Surge, which is like a grenade launcher. So you can shoot 3, and it has some sort of homing capabilities. So you shoot like 3 clips, and I think R2, you shoot, and then once the clips are attached, you press L2 to explode them.
I want to say very quickly for Matthew's sake that if everything that you're seeing is very confusing, that's on purpose. This game rides the line between explaining things and letting them be fucking weird perfectly.
There's no need to explain certain things just being strange.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's okay. Like this, I love this part of the game,
this
actually.
Is probably let's not spoil that.
Yeah, let's not spoil any of that.
Yeah. It's funny, I didn't find these 2 side quests, so this is actually a little bit of spoiler for me, but I mean, it's not in a bad way, but just like this looks way more interesting than the main story that they're focusing on in the game. Like I said, I know that Alan Wake is there. You sort of encounter him. They introduce double of him, but I don't really know what the point of him is. And as I said, now I'm up to the boss, and once I beat him, unless they drop a what do you call it, a knowledge drop, like a dump, an info dump, final cutscene. I'm just.
It looks like they found an actor. They found how to motion cap him. They've created a model of him.
Oh no!
That's a good exercise if you're about to make an Alan Wake game.
That's him. That's the actor. I believe the actor for Alan Wake is like some famous Swedish or Danish actor. Yeah, he's been around. It's the same guy. So, and Matthew Peretta, who is the voice of Dr. What's his name?
Well, he also did Max Payne. Right? Oh no.
No, Max Payne was a director.
Max Payne was a
Who is the doctor? The doctor from Control.
Yeah.
Dr. Darling. Dr. Darling.
Dr. Darling.
So the voice actor for Dr. Darling, if you didn't know, fun fact, he's also the guy that played Will from Robin Hood Men in Tights. He is the voice of Alan Wake. Yeah,
I know that guy.
him. He's the voice of Alan Wake, and he is the voice of Dr. Darling. And also, Dr. Darling is him. So they didn't voice, they motion capped somebody else for Alan Wake, but they used his voice. But then for this game,
his performance in the base game is just so goddamn good.
Yeah. He's I'm surprised he didn't get a lot of work as an actor. He's good.
Maybe he's not interested in staying in gaming. I don't know. But
No. I'm just meant over his career, because like I said, when I said this guy he looks so familiar, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, he looks so familiar. Then I looked him up, and he was like, oh, he's the guy from Men in Tights. Then I kind of looked through his filmography, and I was like, oh, but he hasn't really done much. But like you said, his performance was like super, super good. And then looking back, going like, oh, he was also the voice for Alan Wake. It's like, what?
Yeah, strange.
You're a very talented man. You need more work.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But yeah, that's it. I've also been playing Captain Tsubasa, but I will talk about that next episode.
That's the anime soccer game, right?
Anime soccer, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun, but definitely I don't have time to go into it here. I'll save it for the next episode. But that's all I've been playing. So I guess we gotta get frosty with Stacy.
Yeah. So we have reviewed Frostpunk before, and I wanted to play it because I was kind of missing the feel of a good sim game, and I like the idea.
I just talked about how traumatized the game made me.
Yeah. Well, and games that are sad or difficult can appeal more to me than the average person, and then the average game appeals to me.
Done.
Yeah, yeah. But I also like the idea of sim games that have an actual story. When I look back at the old sim games, I preferred some of the games that, you know, go into the future and explore space, as opposed to, you know, ancient civilizations fighting each other or keeping a city running and growing. Those things didn't feel very plotty and interesting to me, but at the same time, the gameplay was fun. So it was all about the gameplay and pretty much none about the story, you know? But this game manages to put them together pretty nicely by saying, hey, there's an environmental apocalypse. In this case, the world's getting too cold, and it's the Victorian era. There actually was a cold spell that swept through the planet. I don't know, 2.5 centuries ago, something like that. Anyway, so in this case, they've made it much worse than it actually was. It's so bad that London becomes uninhabitable, and they have to figure out what to do about it. So the plan they come up with is to make these giant generators that are pulling heat from the core of the Earth, and that's going to heat a small area around it and allow some people to survive, but not everyone. So that's the challenge.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right, and you have to figure out how to grow food in the cold. You have to figure out how to get enough machines.
Geothermal energy. That's super cool, actually. I like the theme for that a lot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You eventually need robots to do some of the work for you because it's too cold to work outside. So it's got a nice progression built in, but it's also ultimately very depressing because you're also dealing with people's kind of panic about the situation. When things get really...
Do you want me to do it?
I'll do it, actually.
Okay.
As things get rough, one of the things that happens is a group of people say, well, we should try and go back to London. I'm sure we can make it work over there. Here it's cold and we're hungry and it sucks. And then you find out that a group of people who escaped London didn't even make it. Like, they died on the way. And you find out about this place called Winterhome that just destroyed so many people. And it just causes sort of a panic to go through your town. And you have to decide whether you want these Londoners to just like let them go into the cold and kill themselves if they want, trying to find something better, or try to persuade them to stay or force them to stay, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah, so one of the expansions is actually called The Fall of Winterhome. What happened to those Londoners? What made them flee like that? And then why didn't it work for them? And you find out their generator was hastily constructed and poorly put together, and it wasn't going to last. So the best they could do was try and put people on a ship and hope they could find somewhere else that was habitable eventually. So in one of these scenarios that's an expansion, you are in charge of Winterhome after a terrible civil riot has broken out. A significant number of people have died. The kind of forced order that was keeping the place going is gone. Now the first thing you have to do is figure out what to do with the bodies, and how are you going to clean up all the broken buildings? Not enough food to go around. How are you going to handle that? And the place is a mess. You know, you're not building from scratch. You're building from worse than scratch.
Yeah, worse than scratch. The remnants of of your loved ones. Yes.
Right, and eventually realize you can't save it anyway. The best you can do is escape. So again, very dark feeling, because what happens in the original?
Very sad.
Very Snowpiercer.
Very sad.
And how the first game tends to end, because it's so hard to control people and their panic and fear and their discontent, that you end up having to go very much a religious faith and head towards crusade territory, where some people are made outcast for believing the wrong things, or sort of a fascism point of view, where you throw people in prison who have the wrong point of view.
I mean, that's the base game. I just did like a 7-hour gauntlet and then never touched the game again because I did the control path, and the game basically concluded with me realizing that the final part in the social tree was full-on fascism, and I was like, nope, I refuse to do that.
Yeah,
And
that's rough.
And then instead, I just watched a majority of my people die for like the last hour of the game, and it was like so grueling. But that was the whole thing for me. That's why this game fucked me up. I was staring at that button, and I was just like, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
So
Yeah, I can't do it.
yeah, so the last expansion is an interesting twist on it. It's called On the Edge, and you're literally on the edge of a cliff face next to a mine where there's a bunch of precious metal and some of this high-tech stuff that you need to make these robots. And you're there to try and scour stuff for London, and they promise you that they'll give you what you need to get your generator started, and in return you'll be like a little outpost of the London people. And of course it does not go well for you. For one thing, they don't give you enough food to get by, and when you reach somebody else that does have some food to trade you, they tell you not to trade with them and try to commandeer all the food you've just gotten from trade. So you have to decide whether you're just going to full on rebel and fight right there, or whether you're going to go along with it for a while. But I just want to show a little bit of the gameplay. The traditional Frostpunk kind of takes place in a big bowl. And on this one, you have a cliff face on one side that you kind of prevents you from expanding. You have a very limited small area to work with.
I love how the most prominent piece of UI is the temperature on the top.
Yeah.
It's just constantly telling you how fucked you are.
Yeah. Jeez.
And it gets to negative 60 degrees Celsius. Things are gonna get rough for you. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. And eventually you do have to prepare for a giant oncoming storm, and you have to hoard food. You have to hoard coal to feed your generator so you can stay warm. You need to have homes that are sturdy enough to insulate you from the weather outside. So you've got some tasks ahead of you. And in a nice twist with On the Edge, when London starts to fail, you have to decide whether and how to rescue them. Are you going to send them a ton of your stuff, putting yourself at danger? Or are you going to tell them, well, screw you, you guys tried to screw us, guess you're out of luck? Or are you going to say, well, you're not all bad. Some of you can come here as refugees and we'll find somewhere to put you in our tiny little space here. So you definitely have some interesting choices, but it is possible to come out with a relatively optimistic, it was bad.
Outcome.
Yeah.
But we helped anyway.
Apocalyptic politics simulator.
Yeah, I know. The whole world's on fire. I don't know if I could play this and be mentally stable.
Yeah, it's like be okay with yourself.
This is literally how you work through that, right? Like put this game in front of people and watch someone play this game, and I can tell you their politics.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say there was a period of time where Matt just kept playing depressing game after depressing game, and our roommate at one point just got fed up, and he was like, "Do you ever play any nice games?" And that is all I've been thinking the whole time, because Matt's like, "Oh, I want to play this."
Other side that I can talk about later.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of politics happening here, and one of the scenarios, you have a bunch of seedling homes that you have to keep relatively warm. And the idea is when the earth warms up again, you'll have all these seeds, you can grow crops again, the earth can be restored. But in order to do that, you have a total of 50 engineers, and that's all you're ever going to have.
Wow.
Ooh, yikes.
And do they, and they can potentially die as well?
Of course.
They all have
They can freeze to death,
they all have names.
They can get sick.
They all have names and family relationships.
Of course they do.
No.
Of course they do.
You can ignore it very easily. But if you're like me, you
read
just go and you pick favorites, and then you find out that
when someone dies, you either put them in cold storage for organ transplants later, or you can have a cemetery, which means you're going to walk out into the cold and hang out in the cemetery for hours and potentially freeze to death.
Yeah.
Good times. It does look cool. I do like the way that it's
out at the
built.
bottom that
the aesthetic is actually
it's worth pointing out at the bottom the
interesting
key mechanic with a lot of the social gameplay and how it's captured with discontent and hope.
Yes, right. I think probably my favorite scenario is the one called Last Autumn. It actually starts before this apocalypse even starts, and you are building the generator that you then start the actual main game with. right?
Mm.
Well, you have a hole in the ground and a bunch of like materials to try and build a factory and stuff with, to try and build this generator. And that's actually really nice. It's just starting to get really freaking cold towards the end, and you manage to save a whole bunch of people. They like arrive at the end of the game and you're like, we did it, yay.
Nice.
So,
That's very
cool.
nice.
The scenarios kind of salvage the game from being too depressing to play, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
But I really like, I'd probably recommend you play right through from
just gauntlet it,
through
do
the
the
full
Xavi
game,
technique,
and then go through the scenarios, at least through building your own generator, and see how that feels.
I don't recommend doing a 7-hour gauntlet of the base like I did, because then you won't have the mental energy to play the scenarios.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But it's fun. It's interesting gameplay. It's a good sim. The gameplay is good in and of itself. But it can also be a little heart-wrenching and sad.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about this game is that so often video games use the God perspective, literally with the camera, especially with the mechanics, to just be a power fantasy, like Civilization or Age of Empires or any of the other games. People don't really get in your way. There's exceptions, like Crusader Kings 2 is all about people getting in your way in unexpected ways, and it's very funny. But so often it's just about, look at me ordering my little peons around. This game really challenges your ability to empathize with the people that you're managing. Like, you are able to see their names, you're able to see their family relationships and whatnot, but in all seriousness, it's a harder game to play if you do that, because they're gonna die spontaneously and you're gonna feel like shit.
Yeah, all I know is I assigned 10 workers to that building out in the cold. I didn't realize I was about to kill 2 of your 3 sons, ma'am. Oops.
Yeah.
Listen, I will play this if I can. Like, I see it's on Steam, so I don't know if I can. But like, I'm very interested to play. But like, I will cry the whole time.
Yeah, I was gonna say emotional catharsis of waiting.
I'm not sugarcoating my experience. The last hour of this game, without getting spoilerific, is the most disempowering feeling I think a video game might ever have accomplished for me, because I just watched what was happening and I did not know if I could do anything. And I just continuously watched things degrade, and I was just like, I refuse to press the fascism button. I refuse.
I won't do it.
I am twistedly intrigued. I will cry.
Yeah.
It'll be a good time, but I'm gonna cry. Don't walk in when I'm playing this game.
This game is like Schindler's List, man. Like, I'd recommend the movie to people, but like, don't just go and just be like, let's go watch Schindler's List. It'll be a good time. Like, no, it won't.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, it won't be a good time, but like, I'll enjoy the experience. I have a feeling
you'll be engaged.
A valuable time.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so that was my fun. I definitely have enjoyed
I feel like
the
we
heck out
should
of that.
start off with that game and not end it, but
I love it. I love it. I love that game.
That's where we are going to wrap up today's episode. And you can always find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our socials. And
all the socials.
See you guys on the next episode.
Bye. Bye, everybody.